Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and today I have a really exciting video. This is something that I've been waiting quite a while now to make a video for, and we have to thank Wooting because Wooting sent me out their 60HE V2, the finalized version, the one that everyone's getting now, and it's right here in my hands. Now, before we go into the video, and I have to apologize ahead of time because this is going to be quite the long video. The reason being, I have a lot I've planned for this one, and there's gonna be a lot of sound tests as well as different things I want to go over with you guys. So please, I hope you bear with me. I'll have in the descriptions like the different timestamps. So if you want to jump into those ones and see the specific spots, definitely go do it. I'll have more generic timestamps for you guys, and you can go in and check out which parts you want to see most. Now, why am I doing this intro a little bit longer? It's because I actually want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory. So some of you guys may have noticed in some of my videos previously that I used to have in the back here a 60 with a split space bar, the one that looked like a V2. Some people noticed that it is a V2, some people weren't sure what it was. Over time, some people kind of got it as Wooting actually released information. I actually, really have to be thankful, and I was truly blessed by the opportunity to be able to do this, was the fact that I was part of the engineering sample test. So Wooting actually reached out to me way back, like this was months ago, which was before the summer, where I was invited in to test out the engineering sample, provide feedback, and test out what was going to be the Taycan and what was going to be the 60HE V2. Though, to be fair, the engineering sample was very close to a finished product. It was just small things that they wanted some feedback on, and I was really, really thankful that I had the opportunity to, discuss with them, give them actually provided pages and pages of feedback, and of course, they were even really nice enough for me to actually speak with Calder. And one thing that I can truly tell you guys is that Calder truly loves Wooting. He's a guy that loves what he's doing. He loves the business. He loves the company. He loves everything that they're doing. And I can see the passion from him. And it's just see the excitement when he talks about new products that he's working on. So this really shows you guys why Wooting is what Wooting is. It's a brand and it's a company that really loves what they're doing and really puts in the effort to make something amazing. I'm truly excited to try this one out. I'm going to show you guys two different colors, of course. So I think Calder actually in their Instagram live stream was mentioning how the black and white keycaps can sound different, and we're gonna have to see, right? I'm lucky enough to have both versions, the black and the silver, so I can give you guys different versions. We're gonna go through a huge amount of sound tests. I'm even gonna give you guys some of the popular switches in the V2. That way, you can actually prepare for when your V2 arrives to test out and buy different switches for that board. So please make sure to like and subscribe, and let's go right into it. Now, starting off with the unboxing of the Wooting 60HE V2. Thank you again, Wooting, for sending me out both the V2 and the wrist rest. Now, I actually did try out the Wooting 60HE V2 already. I've been using it for quite a while, actually. I've been using it since the summertime. So I didn't get the wrist rest at the time, so it's interesting to see what it's going to be like and see how this works, because if you saw the 60 V2 case, there was a little concave point in front of the case where you can actually connect the wrist rest, which we'll look at very soon. But of course, we're going to open up the box first. And the first thing you're going to notice is the packaging box is actually just like the 80HE, where the 80HE is using more of a recyclable box. And that's what they did with the V2 for the 60HE. And overall, they do a great job with packaging. If you look at this packaging, it looks very plain, but simple and does the job perfectly. You also get this letter here. So this is supposed to be like an envelope and a letter for you to be able to mail something to Wooting. So it's actually a letter you can write to Wooting. And sorry guys, you can see here, I have a very hard time opening up stuff. I don't know what it is. I'm really bad at opening things up, and I always want to make it clean, but it is something that I actually have a huge trouble doing. But as you can see here, as I struggle, I finally get it out, and inside is like this really cute picture and also the letter from Wooting, which you can actually write yourself and send to them. So if you have right there an actual portion you can send, and then you can mail it off to Wooting with any feedback or anything that you like to do. Or of course, the quickest way to do it instead of a letter is going to be on their Discord. Now, the accessories box. So the accessories you get with the Wooting is you get it actually in a bag. You do get a braided cable, a USB-C to C with a dongle for, adapter for the USB 3.0 port, and then a switch puller, keycap puller, and that tool is actually going to be the tool to pull out the Wooting PCB from the case itself. You get some extra screws. You get some different like actual tools that you can use. So this, for example, is going to be where you can put in the band. So you see there the band itself, you can actually put it on the sides yourself there, and you get some extra switches as well. And this is going to be the tools, of course, to really change up the side band that you want to put in. You can actually put on the other side, you can move it around, or you can put it on both sides. It's up to you how you want to do that. Now, I don't really care for it, honestly. I'm not a big fan of putting it on. I actually like it more clean without it. And I probably will end up actually taking off the side portion that's sticking out in my board completely anyways. So let's look at the board of the 60V2, because this is the thing that I've been most excited about. I was excited to try out the finalized version of the V2. And also you can see here, there's a little warning sticker for you guys to know where to install the switches, or like how to install them properly. Now it is wrapped in a nice little packaging there. We move it out, and this is the silver version of the 60V2. And as you can see here with the 60V2, I personally think that it came out really well with the white keycaps. And of course, we're going to check it with the wrist rest now. So as you can see there, where it gets concave there, you push it in and bam, you have the wrist rest combined, and it won't move around at all. What I mean by that is like it won't move apart, and you can keep it together so that it sticks together without any issues. So very cool that they designed it that way. Now, of course, we're going to weigh the board real quick, and this thing weighs a total of 948 grams only, so quite light. One thing I forgot to do, actually, sorry, I had to record this afterwards, is because I forgot about the foam dampening. So you have to know that when you get the aluminum case, you get two different dampening versions. You get the silicone and the foam. They're not sold separately. It actually comes inside the box in the bottom. So if you open up all the way in the bottom of the board, of the box, you can actually find that the foam is hidden inside, where you can grab it yourself and you can use the foam dampening as well. So it's going to provide different sounds. I'm actually going to give you guys a sound test of the silicone and the foam dampening. That way you can hear the differences between them. I'm also going to give you the sound differences between the black and the white version, as well as the Optimum case, because I know there's people out there that probably are curious of how it's going to sound in the Optimum case. So let's go into that. to do the teardown. So the thing that we're going to do first is check out to see what kind of plate we're using, and of course like check out the stabilizers, things like that. Right now you can see right away it's going to be the new FR4 plate. One bad side about the FR4 plate I noticed was that it scratches very easily. So when you're moving these switches, you will scratch the plate. I think Wooting kind of made a miss on this. I don't think they realized that a lot of these switch pullers are metal, and this is a thing that you deal with. Now they do have their own like tape mod on the back of the board, which is really cool, but we're going to make some modifications a little bit after. This is something to note for yourselves. You have to make sure you don't cover that top section right beside the USB port. That actually is important to the board, and this is going to be a portion even inside the case itself that's actually going to be a metal piece there, and you don't want to cover it at all. You want to make sure that it's not covered. That's what Wooting warned me about when I was actually modifying my previous sample. So we have this out, we removed all the screws, and of course we're going to try to take it apart, really take a look and see what we're looking at with this board. And one thing you have to important is that you have to remove the keys on the stabilizers to be able to take it apart completely. Now the stabilizers here, you can tell is screw-in stabilizers, and they're going to be decently lubed. The engineering sample that I had, lubing wasn't great, so I did tell them about that to make it a bit better. But I think you still are going to have to add a little bit more lube to these because I felt it wasn't the perfect stabilizers. Now overall, they do have the inner foam inside of the actual plate, and between the plate and the PCB. So you'll see the design, you have the PET sheet as well. But overall, the friction pad, it's going to be interesting with this one because it's only the outer side and it's missing the alpha keys, where the alpha keys has the foam. I think the way they did this is a little bit interesting, but I also don't think it's the best way to go about this. The only reason I'm not a big fan of it is because the sounds are going to be different between the inside and the outside, between the way that it's foamed. But the next thing we're going to do is remove the PET sheet. So the reason why we're removing the PET sheet is because Wooting actually told me before that if you remove it, it makes the board sound a lot deeper. And we're going to actually do that modification so I can show you guys exactly how that sounds, so you can get a difference between them and really get an idea of what it kind of sounds like without it at all. It's a very small modification, but you do have to remove all the stabilizers to do so. So what we do is we remove it all completely, and then we're going to put it, of course, all back together so that I can give you guys a really cool sound test that actually makes it sound different. Now, measuring the plate and the PCB, we're actually going to get 1.5 millimeters for both. So it is going to be a thick, no flex cuts or anything like that. So we're looking at kind of usual with Hall effect boards. And of course, now let's put everything together, and then we're going to go into a really cool sound test. But before I do that, actually, I want to modify these stabilizers. So we're going to add some extra lube to all of them. So I do have a syringe, use Crytox 205 G0, and then add it into the stabilizers so that you can get a better sound from them. And you shouldn't get any ticking with these ones. So now let's go into the sound test of this. Now the next thing I want to do is my own tape mod on this. So I'm actually going to remove the back tape that they have because I don't want to ruin it. When you put tape on it, it's going to get ruined. We're going to do one layer of tape mod only and then put that sheet back on so that we have it together. And then now let me give you a sound test of that. we're just back now from the unboxing, and I gave you guys a really interesting sound test so far. So what sound test did we do? We did the stock and lubed and the different dampenings with both cases and both color types. So I have the pre-built version of the V2, of course. The reason why is because it's just a bit easier for me to go with the stock stuff and give you guys more sound tests and comparisons with what is stock with the aluminum cases. Now I don't have the PC case, sorry. I only got both aluminum cases, so the black and the silver. And I also have, here in the back here, the Optimum case as well. So I can give you guys a sound test for those three, and hopefully that helps you guys kind of see what you're looking at with these boards. Now, of course, you guys got the different sound tests from just the Lecker Titans, and specifically the way that the pre-built works for the Wooting 60HE V2. I did that on purpose because I wanted to give you guys that first before we go into different switches. So we're going to move into different switches, and before we go into it, let me just give you a little bit of a backstory of the things that I noticed in terms of the changes. So originally when I was testing out the samples, I felt that the Titans were actually closer to the UR Studios. So the UR Studio Ultras, the Ice Ultras, were actually kind of very similar to what the original Titans were going to be in terms of the sound and feel. Now the Titans changed up a lot, and the now Titans are actually something completely new. And I think in terms of the typing experience, I actually prefer the new Titans a lot more. They do have that top out sound, which if you go check out my Titan review video, you will be able to see it and hear it for yourselves. I'm not going to go over that too much because I've already done a video on the Titans. In terms of the V2s, I feel that the foam dampening is going to be a lot better for you, especially if you want something that's like more thocky sounding, deeper sounding. I think the silicone dampening, as I had mentioned in my like what layout should you get video, is that it's going to be good for the LLabs tie switch. I think the tie switch is going to be where it's at for that, but I know in terms of the Hall effect keyboard world, a lot more people are looking for the so-called thocky, deep sounding profile, and the foam dampening is going to be pretty much what you need to do with it. I will do some modding though with this as well, and the modification sound test, as you guys might have heard. And we did some of the modification sound tests. So one thing that was interesting, and this is something actually Calder told me about, was that if you remove the PET foam, like the sheet, the plastic sheet, it actually affects the sound profile and it makes it a little bit deeper. It's kind of interesting how that works, but if you remove it, it makes a nice sounding, like deep sounding board, and it's a really cool thing, which hopefully you guys heard from my sound test. I think overall, using the dampening, like the foam dampening, using the like tape mod, and actually doing another tape mod on top, plus doing like removing the PET sheet, is going to be the best way to make a deep sounding Wooting. And I think Wooting did a great job with this. I'm gonna be honest, with this specific build out and layout, you're probably looking at one of the better sounding Hall effect boards out there, especially with like different types of switches. Top out sound is something that we're just gonna have to deal with in terms of Hall effect switches, but I actually have one extra switch in this video that we're gonna go into that I think will help a lot with that in terms of removing a lot of that top out sound. So we're gonna have to go into the sound test, go through all of it, and then we'll go into an in-depth look at the board and review, and of course check out the performance and in games. So let's go right into that. So hopefully that helped you guys into seeing like what kind of switches would work, what would be the best sounding in terms of the 60V2. You know, the black and the silver are different, but I did focus on the white version with the sound test, and hopefully this can give you guys an idea in terms of like what it should sound like. So the reasoning behind like the tapping test is just kind of get an idea of like the quality of a loom that they're using, and in terms of like the fact is the board does sound a bit hollow in certain positions, and I feel like there are certain areas where when you're tapping on it, it does make that hollow sound. Overall, the black is going to be sounding a lot deeper in terms of like the keycaps with the case than the white and silver version. This is something that actually Calder was saying in one of the Instagram lives, where the black keycaps actually sounded different than the white, and it was just because of the way that they're made. So that was kind of surprising in terms of that. I'm not sure like full on the reason why behind it, but it was interesting to see that the black sounded actually better in terms of the board than the white one. Now overall, as you can see by looking at the back of the board, it does look really nice for them. Like, I love the design of it. I love how they did the feet. I do kind of wish that they did more customization for the feet where you can change the angle on this. It would have honestly been nice to have some angle changes available with this, and then, you know, of course with the wrist rest, like you can work with it and kind of play around with it. The wrist rest is quite nice, but there are some caveats with it. It does get dusty really easily and dirty very easily. Like, it does stick well with the board. It won't like move around too much. It's nice, but yeah, it does collect dust and it's very hard to clean off. One thing I'll say is that like when you're trying to clean it off, you use like something wet, it actually kind of clumps up the dust. It just makes it a little bit difficult to clean off with silicone. I do love the back design though. It does look really nice, and I do appreciate like the work that they put into this one. Overall though, I think with comparing like the board itself and like comparing to the V1, I really appreciate what they did with the V2. The board and the design of it looks really good, and in terms of like they split spacebar, I really love how they did it. One of the things they have to understand is the reason why I like the split spacebar with like the key in the middle is the fact that it becomes really functional. When you use your right hand to try to reach like the F1, F2, 3 kind of area, it's impossible to do unless you have really, really large hands. But if you use your left hand to reach for things with like the middle button, it makes it so much easier. I highly suggest you change the middle one to a function key instead of space. It really will make a difference. Like, I really think that when you're gaming with this and you're doing stuff and you want to use like the arrow keys even, WASD works incredibly well, and you can always set up 2 different arrow keys with this, which will be really nice. That means just you can go into the utility, like change things up yourselves and have different layers for function. That's kind of like what I did. I had a layer 2 and a layer 1 all different for the arrow keys. That way I can kind of have it set up and then also have an area for the profiles. Overall, Wooting did a great job with this, and I really do appreciate like the amount of work they put into it. But there's certain things that I think just didn't go well as I was hoping it would. Was going to be the overall sound, where it feels like there's a lot more hollow sounding to this board in terms of the case than originally what I was anticipating. I think even 2-layer tape mod with their actual tape on the back is going to be probably the better way to go about modifying this board to make it sound very nice, and maybe even filling up the empty space in the case. But the case itself is very well done. Another thing is that the plate itself, yeah, they really didn't do a great job with like making sure that it's really well kept, because it will actually scratch up. I really think that that's something that might have been missed, and I kind of feel a little bit down the fact that it was a bit missed in terms of that. Now, in terms of how loud this board can be, it's actually not going to be too loud. Like, one of the big things is like in terms of the flex of it, it's like very little flex in terms of the board itself, and it's quite sturdy. I really do appreciate that fact that the PC plate, if they went with that, it would have been flexible, which is not great for Hall effect sensor, but the FR4 plate is an interesting sound. Now, in terms of going to loudness of this board, it's really not very loud. With the Taycan switches, you're looking at around like the 64 decibel portion, so really not bad to do at all. And, you know, even using it like at your home or even like taking it around to use stuff, it's not going to be too bad for, you know, loudness wise, and it will be pretty decent. Of course, sound wise, maybe not the greatest because of like the way that the board might be, but if you do modify it, I think you can really get a really cool sound from it. And now the next thing we've got to do, of course, is going to be going to the backlighting test. So let's check out the backlighting and of course the software at the same time.
So now going into the actual software and the brightness. So as you can see here, I have the keyboard on the bottom left, and then it's currently set in white light. They did a really good job. So the lighting is quite accurate with white this time, compared to the 80HE, which had a bit of like a pink hue. This goes really fully white. So that's something awesome to see. Now, as you can see with the tachyon mode, the 70% goes a little bit dim, but not too bad. And then at 10%, you can see a little bit of it. And then once you get to the 50% portion, you should start seeing it a lot brighter. And it's actually decently bright. Once you go to 70%, which is the 8K mode, it'll be still quite bright. And then 100%, it goes really, really bright. Like the backlighting on this thing is super bright for sure. I think they did a great job with that specific lighting. Now, one of the benefits of Wooting is like the fact that you can actually change the lighting on each key. This is not something that's available for every single keyboard out there, and I personally love how they did this, and I really wish more boards like that. Now, if you look here at the actuation, it only goes to the 0.1 millimeter, which is unfortunate. I kind of wish they went all the way to the 0.05. I think that would have been really cool, but you know, it's better than what they used to have, which was the 1.0, 2.0, or like 1.5, and going by 0.5s instead of the 0.1. Now you can go into like actuation point, change the settings there, or you can go into rapid trigger as well and set things there. You can also enable a rapid trigger and then even change the release and press of the actuation, which is really nice to have. And also you can set up continuous rapid trigger as well. So you can always change up the settings in many different ways. Pretty much the benefit of Wooting keyboards is and the software is the fact that the software gets really, really customizable and you can do a lot of cool stuff with it. You can also go into remap to change up the certain remapping that you like. You can always use their own, or you can link it, meaning like the functions are always going to be the same as every single profile that you use, or you can change it up. Now, one of the key things I would highly recommend for you is going to be changing that spacebar to a function key instead of keeping it as a spacebar. I think the function is probably the best way to go about it, because the function key there is actually quite useful. And as I was mentioning, that's where the functionality comes in, and I think that's the benefit of the split spacebar, as well as the sound that it makes. Now, of course, you go into advanced keys, set up Rappy Snappy. What Rappy Snappy is going to be where you have the keys, depending on how far one is pressed, right? Whichever is further is going to be the one that actuates. So this is one of the ways that people do breaking and using this in terms of Valorant and CSGO. The other one is Snappy Tappy, which you have to delete the Rappy Snappy first, of course, before you can set it with A and D. So you have to make sure to delete the advanced keys you set up and then set it up again with the A and D. Now, with a Snappy Tappy, the difference is going to be you can change the input wise, so last input or priority or neutral, depending on how you like it. I think a lot of people usually put it in last priority, meaning that if you press A and then you hold D, it's going to stay with D, and if you let go, it goes back to A, and you can hold the keys down to do so. So it gives a little bit more benefits in terms of movement wise, in terms of gaming Valorant. And then you have the gamepad feature. So this is a feature that Wooting has, and the only other board I know that has it is the Keychron ones. I really appreciate this feature. This is what I use for Tekken, and with Tekken I actually have it as a gamepad instead of just rapid trigger, because I feel like the linear actuation settings is better for that with a actual controller. So that's how I set it up. Now I also have my Apex settings, and you can see here how I set it up for Apex. I think this is the reason why I kind of want the 0.05 at least, is just so that I can really use it to set it up a bit more accurate. So this is Super Glide Trainer. I know Super Gliding is not as much used anymore, but this is another way you can use Super Glide Trainer to set up the actuation. But you can see how it's going to tell you when you're off and stuff. This is kind of what I mean in terms of I wish that it can go a little bit more in terms of the accuracy, because with certain boards that I can go to 0.01 millimeters, it's easier for me to actually make that small change just to get the exact actuation that I want. But of course, we're going to have to go in and actually take a look in Apex to see how it works. So now we're in Apex, and this is what I do here in Apex, is practice super gliding and using it with the Hall of Fame keyboards. Overall, it was a little bit difficult to get the super glide perfectly. Of course, it takes some time to get used to, of course, depending on the keyboard and the way that the keyboard's shaped and the layout. I was able to start doing it after some time. Even the reason why I pick up a shotgun is because when you pick up a shotgun with a gold bolt, when you do pull off a super glide, it actually auto reloads, and this is kind of the best feature to make sure you're doing a super glide, because sometimes a super glide could be done, but it's so slow that you can't really tell. and that way you can really tell him, these are doing like super glides. I actually set it up so I can do either super glide or do the new movement tech. Now, one thing that you can also do with Hall effect boards that's really cool is in Apex Legends, every gun has specific recoil, and if you do movement shots, you actually can like smooth the recoil a little bit. One thing I realized with Hall effect boards is if you spam 80 super quickly with low actuation, you can actually do a little bit of recoil smoothing, so you don't get as much of that vertical bump, the jump in terms of recoil. Now, going into the price. So this is $239.99 USD. So that's 240 USD for the new 60HE V2. I know it's not cheap. It's quite the expensive board, that's for sure. I completely understand. But I would also appreciate it if you guys actually use my link to purchase a V2. If you are going to get one, it would be awesome if you support this channel by using my link, as I am a partner for Wooting. Now, you can get the just module version for 140 USD, and then you can also get the pre-built version. Now, the module for 140 USD is okay. I kind of just wish that they did do the little bit more of a budget or like discount for those that already had a V1. It'd have been really cool if they kind of listened to that, but I mean, I do understand it. It isn't like super expensive, but it's still kind of pricey when you kind of consider it comparing to like some other PCB and plates out there. Now, you can choose your cases. You can do the Optima case or the new V2 case. I actually prefer the new aluminum V2 case, and the only reason is because I find the Optima case on the sides actually is sounding more hollow. I prefer the new V2 case, and I would highly suggest anyone that's going to get one, get the new V2 aluminum case, just because it is really well done in terms of even the sides sound wise. It's not too much, and there's not a lot of bezels on the side either. Now, you do get 8K with this, which is awesome, and then also you can change it up to 1K polling. So if you do have a computer that kind of struggles with 8K, you can definitely use that specific setting and change to the 1K. And the nice thing about Wooting is it actually does go to the 1K, so there's a lot of half-life players that don't do that.
Final thoughts in terms of what I think about this 60V2, and is it really worth grabbing for yourself? Now, there's going to be a lot of things to consider, right? I've also am a person that tried out TMR. I've tried the Monsgeek Fun 60, which I know a lot of people have been talking about, which, by the way, I will be doing a video comparing TMR and Hall effect, because I think there's some false information that's going around, and it's getting into this point where it's becoming fact and people are really trusting it too much. So I'm going to make a video on that as well in the future, actually probably very soon. But for the 60V2, overall, the performance on it is going to be really good. I saw Optimum mention it as well in his video where, yeah, you're going to get a better response with the 60V2 compared to Monsgeek's Fun 60. And yes, it's true, the Monsgeek Fun 60 is a much cheaper board. The thing is though, in terms of like customization and the software, as well as like the support for the board itself, I think Wooting wins in terms of that. Like, Calder talked about as well as why Wooting prices their things a little bit more expensive, and honestly, I'm with you guys. I wish that the 60V2 and Wooting's boards were more affordable. They're not. They're quite expensive. My 80HE alone cost me 550 Canadian dollars. It's not going to be a cheap thing, but it's an investment in terms of what you are looking for in terms of customizability, the build quality, and the support that you get from the specific company. I think Wooting does charge more specifically because you're going to need the money to do more R&D, and this is how a lot of businesses are. Like, they need some kind of profitability to, especially from there, they're going to take some of that money into future investments in terms of like R&D and other things that they want to do. That's something that a lot of brands do and a lot of companies do. It's something that makes sense, and I completely understand it in terms of a business perspective. In terms of a consumer perspective, I'm gonna be honest, this is something that I did mention to them, and I was really hoping that they implemented this time around, which was going to be a PCB only upgrade option for 60 owners, like the V1 owners. And I really do wish they looked into this, and I really wish they did implement this, because it would have been a really cool thing for Wooting to show. And this is like something that I had mentioned to them a lot of, was that I feel that Wooting is a brand that specifically is known for one, customization and long-term support, meaning long-term upgrades and long-term being able to use the board with like software and everything. I personally thought that the best idea would have been for them to offer a upgrade, maybe limited time only, for 60 owners, proof of purchase and everything, to be able to purchase just a PCB Like you don't need any other parts, no plate, nothing, just the PCB itself. And if you do need to buy the plate, of course, purchase the plate as well for a much more affordable price of like around $100 to $120 was what I was thinking. Just like compared to the competitors out there, like for example, a Venom, right? You're going to be spending around like 120 USD in terms of getting the PCB and plates. That's something that I thought would have been really cool, is some kind of support system to do it. I do understand that in terms of the aspect of like their whole module system that they sell, where you can actually kind of build it yourself, it wouldn't make sense to have that, but I thought it would be a cool idea to provide a nice discount for previous 60 owners, right? Like if you had a 60, wouldn't you want to do an upgrade but not have to spend your money again for a new board? I thought that would have been really nice. But I do understand it's not something simple to do, and I understand because of the whole modular system that they're doing with, like, you get the module system or you can buy like a pre-built and you can choose between two. So it makes sense to me, but it's just something that I feel a little bit unfortunate, disappointed about. I do feel that they could I do think that they did a great job with the 60v2. I love the split spacebar. Honestly, I think this is probably the best thing that they've done, and I wish a lot more companies do it. I think a 60% keyboard with specific split spacebar with a button in the middle is something I personally prefer. And the reason being is that it really does provide you a little bit more functionality in terms of being able to use it. Now, I am partnered with Wooting. I'll have links in the description for you guys to go and check out things from Wooting. I would really appreciate it if you guys use my link, because you know it does provide a little support to this channel as I really try to make better videos. I'm actually going to come to you guys very soon with a new switch, from like a new Hallfix switch, and the 60v2 is going to be the main board that I'll be using from now on for the sound test, with other boards of course, and then hopefully give you guys a good idea of what switches work. So please make sure to like and subscribe. Go check out the other videos I got, and I'll have to catch you guys next time.